Good day, everyone. Today we will be discussing deconstructivist criticism, a literary theory that challenges traditional ways of interpreting text. It is developed by French philosopher Jacques Derrida in the 1960s. Deconstruction focuses on revealing the contradictions and ambiguities within a text. Unlike other literary approaches that seeks to find a unified or fixed meaning, the constructivist criticism shows that meaning is unstable and can be interpreted in multiple ways. It encourages readers to dig deeper and question the binary oppositions and assumptions often present in literature, such as good versus evil, male versus female. Through this lens, we can see how language itself is a complex, shifting system that influences how we understand and interpret text. What is deconstruction? Deconstruction is a critical approach that challenges the traditional ways we understand text. Rather than searching for a single or fixed meaning, deconstruction reveals that texts are filled with contradictions, ambiguities, and hidden meanings. Imagine it like looking at a painting from a new angle. You might notice details that were previously hidden or overlooked. Deconstruction encourages us to go beyond the surface and questions the underlying assumptions and messages within the text. It suggests that meaning is not stable. Instead, it is fluid and open to multiple interpretations, allowing us to see the complexity of language and ideas embedded in the text. Why is it important? Deconstruction is important because it helps us view text in new and unexpected ways. By examining the contradictions and ambiguities within a text, we can uncover deeper meanings that may not be immediately apparent. Moreover, deconstruction challenges the power structures and biases that are often hidden within language and culture. It allows us to question and critique these underlying systems, which can reveal how language is used to maintain power or reinforce certain ideologies. In doing so, deconstruction not only broadens our understanding of literature but also empowers us to think critically about the messages and assumptions present in everyday language. Now let's talk about the binary oppositions and identifying contradictions. Now, deconstruction often focuses on how texts are structured around binary opposition, such as good versus evil, male versus female, or nature versus culture. These pairs are not neutral. One term is usually privileged or seen as superior. Deconstruction challenges this by suggesting that these oppositions create a hierarchy favoring one side over the other. It identifies contradictions within these binaries, showing that they are not as clear-cut as they seem. By examining how these oppositions are formed and questions within a text, deconstruction reveals the ambiguities and inconsistencies in the author's intended message, making us realize that meaning are far more complex than they appear. Next is subverting the center. Another key aspect of deconstruction is subverting the center, which means challenging the dominant ideas or hierarchies within a text. It argues that what we often consider the center or the primary or dominant meaning is not an essential truth but a product of societal conventions or biases. Deconstruction destabilizes this so-called center by questioning the authority and validity of these dominant ideas. So, it uncovers hidden meanings and perspective that might have been marginalized or ignored. This process reveals that texts are not as unified or stable as they may seem, and instead They contain multiple, shifting interpretations. Third is playing with language. Deconstruction closely examines the language used in a text to explore ambiguities and contradictions. It recognizes that language is not always precise. Words and phrases can have multiple meanings, which may shift depending on their context. So now, by paying attention to this, deconstruction reveals how specific words or expressions can introduce uncertainties and contradictions into the text. Furthermore, deconstruction shows that language can be slippery. Its meaning are not fixed but fluid. This allows for multiple interpretations, some of which the author may not have intended or even anticipated. By highlighting these aspects, the construction uncovers hidden meaning and alternative interpretations that lie beneath the surface, demonstrating that texts are more complex and layered than they initially appear. Now let's talk about the key points to remember. First, deconstruction challenges the traditional belief that a text has a fixed or singular meaning. Instead, it suggests that texts are polysemic, meaning they can have multiple interpretations. According to this approach, the meaning of a text is always deferred or postponed, making it impossible to pinpoint a single definitive interpretation. This challenges readers to think critically about the relationship between language and meaning. Second is, the construction also emphasizes that language is not a straightforward, transparent tool for representing reality. It is complex and often ambiguous. Words and phrases can carry different meanings depending on their context, making language slippery and often to multiple readings. So now, by recognizing these ambiguities, deconstructions exposes how text can be interpreted in various ways. Lastly, the philosopher Jacques Derrida developed deconstruction in the 1960s and is considered its founder. His work has profoundly influenced not only literary criticism but also philosophy and other fields, encouraging people to question and rethink how language shapes our understanding of the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us proceed to discussing the step-by-step guide to the constructive analysis. So, the step 1. Choose a text. Select a text that you find interesting or challenging. It could be a novel, poem, essay, or even a piece of art. So, the text that you select will be the focus of your analysis. So, if the text is thought-provoking or challenging, it will give you more opportunities to explore deeper ideas, themes, or hidden meanings. So the richer the text, the more material you have for analysis. Step 2. Identify contradictions, ambiguities, or binary oppositions. So look for opposing pairs within the text, such as good or evil, male or female, or nature or culture. Identify any contradictions or inconsistencies in the text's logic or message. Pay attention to ambiguous language or phrases that can be interpreted in multiple ways. So when analyzing a text, start by identifying opposites like good versus evil, contradictions where the text seems to send mixed messages, and ambiguous phrases that can have more than one meaning. So these elements show that the text is complex with layers of meaning that might not be obvious at first. By paying attention to these details, you can uncover different interpretations and see that the text isn't as straightforward as it may seem. This helps you understand the deeper themes and ideas the author is trying to convey. Step 3. Question the fixed meanings or assumptions. Challenge the idea that the text has a single fixed meaning. Ask yourself, what are the underlying assumptions or beliefs that shape the text? How does the text reinforce or challenge dominant cultural narratives? So in this step, challenge the idea that the text has only one meaning. Consider what assumptions or beliefs the text relies on. These are the ideas that shape its message. So ask yourself if the text follows common cultural beliefs or challenges them. For example, does it reinforce traditional ideas about society, or does it question those ideas? So, by examining these assumptions, you can uncover new interpretations and understanding how the text either supports or critiques the dominant cultural narratives. This helps you see beyond the surface meaning and explore deeper, more complex ideas within the text. Step 4. Show how the text's meaning shifts or becomes uncertain. So explore the ways in which the text's meaning can be destabilized or questioned. Consider how different interpretations of the text are possible. Show how the text's meaning can shift depending on the reader's perspective or historical context. So in this step, examine how the meaning of the text can change or become unclear. Explore ways in which certain phrases or ideas might be interpreted differently depending on the reader's perspective or background, and consider how various contexts like the time period when the text was written or current social issues can influence its interpretation. So, for example, a text that seemed straightforward in the past might take on new meanings today. By highlighting these shifts and uncertainties, you can demonstrate that the text is not fixed in meaning but open to multiple interpretations, making it richer and more complex. So this analysis helps reveal how the reader's viewpoint and historical context play a crucial role in understanding the text. Since we know now the step-by-step guide to deconstructive analysis, let us now try to deconstruct. So for sure, we are all familiar with the fictional story The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. But in case you somehow forget the story, allow me to share to you the very short summary of the story. So it is in a small village. The townspeople gather for an annual lottery on June 27. Families draw slips of paper from the black box, with one family selected for a final draw. When the Hutchinson family is chosen, Tessie Hutchinson draws the paper with a black dot. Despite protesting that it's unfair, Tessie is stoned to death, with the villagers revealing the violent purpose of the lottery. So maybe you have remembered the story already. So let us now apply the constructive or the construction to the text. So here's how the construction can be applied to these texts. Number 1, identifying contradictions and ambiguities. So ordinary versus extraordinary. The story presents a stark contrast between the seemingly ordinary, idyllic setting of the village and the bizarre, unsettling ritual of the lottery. So the story contrasts the calm village life with the shocking lottery ritual. The construction helps us to see that these contrasts reveals deeper truths. While the village appears safe, the lottery shows how ordinary settings can hide extraordinary violence. So this prompts us to question what we consider normal and recognize that evil can exist in everyday life. By highlighting this tension, the construction challenges our understanding of safety and normalcy. Tradition versus progress. So the villagers blindly adhere to the tradition of the lottery, even though its purpose is unclear and its consequences are severe. This raises questions about the relationship between tradition and progress. So the villagers follow the lottery tradition without questioning it, even though its purpose is unclear. Through the construction, we examine how this blind adherence raises doubts about the value of tradition. It prompts us to ask if following traditions is always beneficial or if they can lead to harm. By analyzing this theme, deconstruction encourages us to reconsider the role of traditions in our lives and whether they should be challenged or changed. Community versus individual. The story explores the tension between the needs of the community and the rights of the individual. The lottery sacrifices the life of one individual for the supposed good of the whole. So the story highlights the conflict between community needs and individual rights. So as Tessie Hutchinson is sacrificed for the group, the construction allows us to see how this theme reveals the moral dilemmas in prioritizing the community over the individual. It raises questions about fairness and justice, encouraging us to think about the consequences of group decisions on individual lives. By exploring this tension, the construction exposes the complexities of communal relationships and the potential for injustice. Number 2. Questioning fixed meanings or assumptions. The purpose of the lottery. So the story never explicitly reveals the purpose of the lottery. This ambiguity allows for multiple interpretations and encourages readers to question the underlying assumptions about the ritual. So the lack of a clear purpose for the lottery allows for multiple interpretations. The construction encourages us to question our assumptions about rituals and traditions. It invites us to think critically about why we accept certain practices without understanding their meanings and the nature of evil. So the story presents a disturbing image of evil as something ordinary and commonplace. This challenges the traditional notions of evil as something exceptional or extraordinary. So the story portrays evil as something that can be part of everyday life. So this challenges a traditional view of evil as something rare or traumatic. The construction helps us to recognize that harm can be woven into ordinary experiences, prompting us to conform or to confront uncomfortable truths about human behavior. Number 3, showing how meaning shifts. So multiple interpretations. So the lottery can be interpreted in various ways, including as a critic of blind conformity, a commentary on the danger of tradition, or a metaphor for the randomness of fate. So the lottery can symbolize many things, such as the dangers of conformity or the randomness of fate. The construction highlights that meaning is not fixed. Different readers can interpret the story in various ways based on their experiences. So shifting perspective. So the perspective of the villagers who seem to accept the lottery without question contrasts with the reader's likely sense of horror and revulsion. This shift in perspective highlights the subjective nature of meaning. So the contrast between the villagers' acceptance of the lottery and the reader's horror shows how meaning changes with perspective. So the construction reminds us that our understanding of events can be shaped by who we are, emphasizing the subjectivity of the meaning. By applying deconstructionist criticism to these themes, we uncover the complexities and contradictions within the story. This approach encourages us to question our assumptions, recognize the instability of meaning, and reflect on how ordinary life can conceal extraordinary truths. And discussing these themes with your peers, you can highlight how the construction opens up new ways of thinking about the story and the issues it raises. Alright, let us now proceed to the importance of the constructivist criticism. So the first one, it challenges fixed interpretations. So the constructivism teaches us that there isn't just one right way to understand a text. It pushes us to question the idea that any piece of writing has one fixed, obvious meaning, and instead it opens up to possibility that a story, poem, or novel can have multiple meanings depending on how you look at it. Next, it encourages deeper thinking. So instead of accepting the surface meaning of a text, the constructivist criticism pushes us to dig deeper. It asks us to to look at hidden nuances, contradictions, and other elements we might miss at first glance. So this helps us to see beyond the obvious and explore what's beneath the words. Next, it reveals contradictions. So life is full of contradictions, and so are the stories we tell. So the constructivism highlights these contradictions, showing us that uh, texts often contain opposing ideas or unresolved tensions. So by pointing them out, it makes us realize that texts aren't always as straightforward as they seem. So next, it questions assumptions. So we often bring our own assumptions and biases into reading, assuming we understand the right interpretation. So the constructivist criticism asks us to challenge these assumptions. It encourages us to rethink our first impressions and consider new, sometimes surprising possibilities. And the last one, it explores meaning shifts. So meaning aren't static. They can shift depending on the context, culture, or the reader's perspective. So the constructivism demonstrates how different angles or circumstances can change the meaning of a word, phrase, or entire text. So it helps us see how flexible and dynamic meaning really is.
To conclude this report, deconstructivist criticism is a valuable approach to understanding literature. It helps us look closely at texts to find contradictions and hidden meanings that we may not find or see at first. One of the main ideas of deconstruction is that texts do not have just one fixed meaning. Instead, they can be understood in many different ways, and these meanings can change depending on how we read them. For example, a single poem or story might bring to mind various feelings and thoughts for different readers. What one person interprets For example, a single poem or story might bring to mind various feelings and thoughts for different readers. What one person interprets as a message about love might resonate with someone else as commentary on loss. This is because language is complex and often carries multiple meanings. The constructivist criticism encourages us to explore these layers of meaning, which can lead to new insights and a deeper appreciation of the text. Furthermore, by examining the contradictions within a text, we can see how certain ideas or themes may conflict with each other. This can reveal much about the author's intentions and the cultural context in which the text was created. By understanding these contradictions, we can gain a more comprehensive view of the work. Overall, the constructivist criticism is not just about finding what a text means. It is about exploring how meaning is created and how it can shift over time. This approach helps us think critically about literature and encourages us to ask questions about the language we use and the message we encounter in our daily lives. In this way, deconstruction enriches our reading experience and allow us to engage with text in a more meaningful way. Thank you for listening to our presentation about deconstructivist criticism. I hope you now have a better understanding of how this approach helps us look deeper into text and see the different meanings they can have. Literature is not just about what the author writes. It is also about how we as readers interpret those words. By questioning what we read and exploring the hidden messages, we can find new and exciting ideas. I encourage you to think about this concept when you read and to keep looking for different meanings in the text you encounter. Thank you again for your time. Bye!